Welcome everyone to our joint meeting session. I'm Deborah Drucker. I'm one of the co-chairs of IGAD, Improving Global Agricultural Data. And we are having this session today together with the Agricultural Data Ethics Working Group and the AI Data Visitation Working Group. We are being recorded, so if you don't want to appear in the recording, please don't turn on your video. And we are having so the agenda for today. Oh, if you're new to RDAs, you should know that we have 6 guiding principles. Openness, community-driven, consensus, non-profit and technology neutral, harmonization and inclusivity. And you are free to join in this registration meeting. So I'm going to do the introductions, then we are having a report from the Agricultural Data Ethics Working Group. A discussion of potential agricultural research data integrity working group, webinar series brainstorming, and presentations and discussions on the intersection between ethics, data integrity, and AI for agricultural use cases. So the Improving Global Agricultural Data is the first community of practice of RDA. So as I mentioned, I'm Deborah Drucker from Embrapa. Embrapa is the Brazilian Agricultural Research Corporation. We also have Cynthia Parr as one of our chairs. She's from USDA. Valeria Pes from GFAR FAO. And Pietro Zaborowski from OGC, who is also here today with us. Our aim and objective is to be a forum for sharing experiences and providing visibility to research and working within agricultural data. We have had some achievements through our history. It's all available in the RDA portal. Wet interoperability recommendations, agri-semantics, the pollinator data interoperability, which I will mention in the next slide as well. And we are looking forward to the discussion today with the ethics group and also potential new working groups. So we made the community of practice periodic report public in October last year. And also, we just finished the World Fair project. You may have heard about it. It was led by CODATA. And IGAD was responsible for the agricultural biodiversity case study. And all our outputs are available in the website of the project. I will paste it in the notes in a minute. So I'll hand over to Pietro, who is going to present about the liaisons group.
Yeah, so one of the activities that was set, I guess 2 years ago or maybe more, was to create this liaison group because the RDA representatives are coming from the various caucuses, and the idea was to cover as much as possible. It's not the closed list naturally, so this was identified based on the stakeholders we want to engage with and who were active in the IGAD that time. Now the plan is to refresh it, so probably we'll reach out to all of these members, and it's also an open call that will be hopefully released within the group if everybody agrees that it could be extended. The aim of the liaison group is really to drive the discussion within the IGAT. That worked very well in the very beginning of this group when it was created. Then that's why we are here also to try to follow up these activities and in the next topics of the agenda, because one of the ideas to have simply the exchange more intense and more in between also of these plenaries to shape the discussion and the work, because we've seen that simply it's Sparkle, a new group potentially, but it's also a great way to exchange within our communities and initiate some cooperations. So yeah, that's the aim of the liaisons. Now we are hosting that with Marina Razmaze and myself, MoDC, and Marina is presenting the Georgia. But naturally we have all of the other partners from around the globe. And if you're willing to join maybe the liaison group from the IGAT, you can also let me know either in the chat or later in the emails, or just observe the IGAT group.
Thank you very much, Pietro. I'm experiencing some trouble with my computer here, so I saw Miguel ask for the link for the collaborative notes to be pasted in the chat, and I'm having some trouble accessing it. So if anybody can do it, I also ask you to put your name and affiliation there. But let's move to our first presentation. So I would like to welcome Alan Moss, who is going to present the Ethics in Agricultural Data Working Group. Please, Alan.
Great, thank you very much. Welcome, everybody. Good morning, afternoon, or evening, depending on your time zone. So my name is Alan Moss. I'm one of the two co-chairs of the Ethics in Ag Data Working Group. There's a link to our page up here. I'll have a link at the end of the presentation as well. Could you please progress the slide? Thank you. So this is taken from our case statement. The Ethics in Ag Data Working Group is an RDA working group, and all working groups have to have a case statement that's submitted before we are formally approved. So this is taken directly from that. The too long didn't read is that the main purpose of our group is to come up with RDA, formally recognized RDA recommendations on the ethical treatment of agricultural data that will hopefully be adopted by groups throughout the world. Next slide, please. Like all working groups, we're required to address at least one of the UN Sustainable Development Goals. We believe that our working group is working towards ending hunger, at improving industry, innovation, and infrastructure, and at reducing inequalities. Next slide, please. All right, so our working group started back we began initial discussions back in the winter of 2023, and we've been meeting at least monthly since then. Our group was formally approved in August 2024, which was very exciting. Our case statement was accepted by RDA, and at that point we became an official RDA working group. We were also fortunate enough to be assigned an RDA Tiger liaison who has been assisting us with coordination of the working group. It's been extremely helpful. I can't sing their praises enough. It's really helped the co-chairs focus more on the content of the working group and less on the logistics of the working group. And our liaison has been really, really helpful, is really an expert when it comes to doing behind the scenes kind of things. So it looks like, okay. Back one slide, please. Thank you. So that right now, April 2025, we have just released the Ethics in Ag Data Sharing Survey, which you just got a quick glance at, the link to, which is wonderful. So that's being officially released. This is the first time we've actually talked about about the survey outside of this group. So it's officially open for you all to take. We're very excited to get as many people to take it as possible. I'll talk a little bit more about that in the next slide, and continuing on into the future in next month. So we're hoping to run the survey for about a month. We'll have the survey completed, hopefully. And then we'll start the data analysis of that. At some point in the future, we will also collaborate with groups outside, with groups that have been highlighted in the landscape analysis, which I forgot to mention. RDA also helped us they wrote rather a landscape analysis of ethics and ag data generally, like what are the groups working on this, what are the areas. And so from that landscape analysis, we are going to, so Ryan O'Connor is our Tiger liaison, Francis. So from the landscape analysis, we are going to collaborate, hopefully with other groups, maybe some of them are in this room right now. And then from that, it'll help us work on our recommendations. And then from the survey questions and from collaborations and from the literature, we will come up, and through discussions, we will come up with RDA recommendations, which will hopefully be formally recognized by RDA. And since RDA is an international organization, we're hoping that these other organizations will pick up these recommendations and implement them in their own. So the working group does not stop at that point. We are hoping to then, after recommendations have come out, help socialize the recommendations around, answer any questions about them, and disseminate them broadly. And then we'll also monitor the implementation and see what kind of adoption there are of these recommendations. Next slide. All right, so this is very exciting news. We've been working on the survey for a really long time. So the survey is pretty quick to take. I would encourage all of you to take it if you have a chance. It should take you less than 15 minutes. It's anonymous, quick to take. We're looking for responses from a wide variety of individuals. So not from organizations, but from individuals within organizations, from a wide array of fields, interest groups, and regions. So if you are in any way connected to the ethical treatment of agricultural data, or if you have strong opinions about it, or even not strong opinions about it, we'd really appreciate your input. And feel free to share it. So here's a link to it. It was built in Kobo Toolbox, so it should be widely available in most countries, and it has fairly low bandwidth to take as well, which is why we use the Kobo Toolbox to build this survey. We really want to hear from you. Just waiting a little bit, make sure everyone has a chance. I'll drop a link to that into the chat as well, so that you all have access. Next slide, please. So I like to thank again, I already sung their praises, but I like to thank again Tiger, our RDA Tiger, for their really great support. If you are a working group, I'd really encourage you to utilize their services where you can. They've been extremely helpful. Next slide. So here's a link to our working group. So the working group, we've been meeting for a little over a year now, but that doesn't mean that we're not welcoming new members. In fact, we really encourage it. And now's a really great time to join the working group, because we'll be getting these survey responses, and we will actually start working on the actual recommendations once we have these surveys questions, once we've gotten the responses. So now is a great time to join the group, and we're going to be reaching out to outside groups as well. So we're expecting our membership to swell, hopefully, a little bit. So I'm one of 2 co-chairs, and here's a link again to page. So please go check us out. That's all I have. I'll be sticking around so that I can participate in future discussions. Piotr, do you have a question?
Yeah, I mean, probably that's a question that everybody could have in mind. Like, I've been following this group some time, but I think that it's also important to emphasize who should we distribute this to, because I understand that we can fill this survey, but we can also distribute it among our networks, and I wonder if you have any recommendations for that.
Yeah, that's a great question. I don't have, as far as like who should receive it, anyone really working or that is related to agricultural data is really appropriate to take it. We're not keeping it like narrow. We're trying to get as broad view, and we really want to have a diversity of both like geographic regions that are being represented in the survey and of different professions are being represented. We include some demographic questions in it in the very end of the survey, which will be really important to ensuring that we're getting like a broad response. So does that answer your question? Kind of everybody is the answer.
Thank you so much, Alan. It's great to see that the survey is out there. I'll do my best to spread this around. We always have this problem on the language barrier. So nowadays, with many tools for translating, it becomes less a problem, but it's still, I can anticipate that my colleagues will see a survey in English, and now none of them will be feeling encouraged to respond, but I'll try to disseminate as much as I can. And it's great to see the working group, all the work that you are doing evolve. So thank you again. We suggested that the discussion will be in the end. So if you have a burning question like Pietro had, now it's okay to put it in the chat or raise your hand. Or if you can wait until the discussion in the end, you can also do that. Okay. Thanks again, Alan. So I suspect that David was the one that was going to present these slides, and he said he's not coming. So is anyone else going to replace him about the discussion of the potential agricultural research data integrity working group? So I guess we have yeah. I saw the slide before, and I'm not sure what he wanted to talk about it here. So I'm not really following this discussion. I see that there are some slides prepared by David here, and the idea is to have a working group on data integrity, and this is hard for me to pronounce, trustworthiness. And so I don't know, maybe we skip this for now. What? Okay.
Yeah, maybe we can skip it, but maybe we can also recognize if there is any interest in this kind of activity. From what I see and seen in the materials before, that's kind of hot topic nowadays. Data integrity related to trust and reliability of the data. I'm not sure if there is any other working group in the IGAT which is tackling that. Maybe to some extent, several of them, but maybe not directly for the ag sector. And here I also not sure if this is for the ag sector, but clearly the thing about the attribution, provenance, and how we call it, the trust, provenance, trust, I think is quite hot topic, and in at least our community, meaning the the geospatial people because we have more and more data simply generated in the various ways also, and now it will be it will set its exponential growth simply because of the technology. But now we have also these Gen AI tools, and that is really creating the critical problem of trust in the data, which can be synthetic and can be modified in any possible way. I think that is something that we are taking as the topic in OGC in general, and I wonder if there's any other people interested in that. Maybe we can simply put here in the chat if anybody is interested in the data integrity standard, which could be focus on the agriculture, or maybe focus on something more wider, because I guess the tooling which is behind the data integrity is quite generic. But it's maybe your turn also, Deborah, if you have any experience with that data integrity in the agriculture from your perspective. So do you see any challenges to that?
Yeah, I believe it's a challenge not only for agricultural data, but for data in general. So maybe there are other groups in RDA already tackling this, not specifically in agriculture, but something maybe we can reach. Don't know, I saw that Alex is here, don't know if she's aware. Maybe we can reach the RDA coordination to check about that. What I remember about this topic within IGAD is that it was brought from the community in MOVA last year. So David and other people started discussing that. So it was like an organic topic to be explored. And as the community of practice coordinators, we are here to help to bring these topics that comes from the community to concrete groups and concrete plans to tackle that. So I don't know if David will be able to join later, but if he can, we can always have these slides presented afterwards. But for now, I suggest we move to the next topic, unless anyone else. Oh, Alan, yes, please.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that the Ethics and Ag Data Working Group is really focusing on ag sharing. So that's how we we have like very similar terms as this potential working group, but we're really focused more on like the sharing component. So I think this working group has a pretty discrete like focus that would be worthwhile focusing on. I'm not sure how much overlap there are between between the two working groups, but we'd be happy to collaborate. We also have that landscape analysis that came out. I read it a couple weeks ago, so it's not fresh in my mind, but I could share that with people that are interested in this working group, because it has a breakdown of all the different working groups that are RDA and like a lot of other like outside groups as well that might be useful for the organizers of this potential group.
Yeah, can we go to the next slide? That will clarify probably the overlaps, because next, yeah. Yeah, here the proposed output is line up. So the idea is to have the tools, the pilots, and the materials. So I understand that maybe Ethicus Groups is not going that deep into the implementation, but potentially this group could try to implement some of the recommendations from the agriculture group. From the ethics in the agriculture group. If we find the pilots, probably there's a couple of pilots already happening in the wider sense. At least that's what we see in the spatial world. But the tooling is naturally something. As usual, the tooling for these things is very leaky or experimental, research-based, and not very much in the operation system. But I think that there's clear synergy. I'm not sure much about the overlap.
Yeah, thanks. I think that would be great, Alan, to share the landscape analysis, and I'll write to David if he doesn't come here later today, and put you in contact. Is that okay?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you. Okay, so now I hand over to Pietro again to talk about this idea of the webinars series. Please, Pietro.
Yeah, there's a couple of links in the chat. Do you want to talk about that, Francis, now, or you want to leave it for the final discussion? You're adding more and more.
Yeah, I didn't prepare slides, but I did want to say some things, if that's okay, and if now is a good time for you, just to say something. Maybe it's better not to share the screen. That's the only thing, so we can see each other and talk. So there's a couple of things that I thought might be interesting for you anyway. One is that we have some outputs now from the Artificial Intelligence and Data Visitation Working Group. So I put a link there for them, and those are on consent, contracts. Let me just look at it myself. So the first one you can see is secure processing environments for open science. This is pretty much looking at the General Data Protection Regulation in the EU, which has also been adopted in Brazil and other places too, to a certain extent anyway. You know, they have their own laws. But I think this is a very technical, very legalistic document. But it's, I think, looking at these federated analysis and data visitation, things like that. And then we have a citation library on AI.
Sorry to interrupt, Francis, but your sound is not really clear. So
Oh, thank you for saying that.
I'm following you, but it's with some difficulty.
No, that's okay. I'll change my microphone. Thank you for saying it. I need a new headset. Oh, that's why my headset isn't working. So let me get let's see if I find another, microphone. Yeah.
This one is okay. Is that better for you?
Yeah,
Okay,
thank you, much better.
Thank you for saying that, yeah, because it's really disturbing if you have to listen like that. So we have a guidance for ethics committees are now reviewing artificial intelligence and data visitation. It's the first guidance like this in the world, and it is a global guidance. None of this is published yet. It will be published soon, though, we hope. And then we have a guidance on consent for AI and DV. So those are the things that we produced, and perhaps it could be interesting for you to look at them and see if there's uptake for them there. I wanted to ask something, Alan and Deborah, for your survey, did you get ethics review for that? Did you go to an IRB or anything like that?
None of the organization.
Alan, you're off mute, but I cannot hear you, sorry. No, that's me again. Let me see where I'm at.
Do you hear me?
I'll get it straightened up.
I think Francis now is not hearing any of us.
Yeah, Francis.
Francis, do you hear us?
This is almost. I don't hear you. Let me get something else.
Yeah, can you hear us?
I'm sorry. Can you try again?
Yeah, can you hear us now?
Well, now we can hear you. So,
Okay, wonderful.
Yeah.
So yeah, that did come up during our discussions. Unfortunately, none of our groups, including RDA, has an internal review board process. So we were unable to do that. It's something we thought a lot about. So in lieu of that, we included a disclaimer at the beginning that uses like a standard format for things like that. And we try to be careful, but we were unable to do an IRB for it.
Good. So, probably some of you know, I've been doing ethics committees all my life. I wrote the first European guideline, wrote the first global guideline with WHO.
Sorry, you're very quiet, Francis.
Sorry, thank you for saying it. Microphone.
Is there a way you can put your mic like this, like a influencer?
No, because maybe it'll work now. Let's see. But I have a. Is it better now?
Yeah, just
It's
speak
better.
loudly.
And let's see, microphone level all the way up. I can't do better than that. Sorry, I have to do this like this. I'm not sure which problems.
This is great.
It's better now.
So thank you. Yeah.
Go ahead.
So I've been doing ethics committees all my life. Sometimes I think I did a terrible service to the world. We spent 6 months getting a survey done. That we're 6 months getting it through IRB ethics review. It's a silly survey too. It has like no personal information, or very little. Anyway, like your survey. So just to say, so I put in a proposal to RDA to set up their own ethics committee and also an ethics group, and there'll be an ethics task force on it. And if you go to the Hoover discussions, the Hoover conversations, whatever it's called, you'll see there's a question on ethics committees there. So if you have any experience with going to ethics committees and seeing what it's like, it would be really good to get your feedback on it there. The second thing that I put in the chat, I'll just go through the chat to it there, was I did participate in this very interesting meeting last week on Monday on data management for agricultural research. And Deborah, I think you're part of the IDPC too for CODATA. So we will discuss that there too, and probably have a paper that comes out with that. But this is a very good group in China with the Chinese Academy of Sciences and also with the journal that they have, which looks pretty good. So that was a very short webinar for me because I gave my presentation in English, of course, and then the rest of the thing was in Chinese, so I didn't have to stay. So I don't know what happened, but they're really good people. Professor Xu is, Dr. Xu is also a member of our working group, so that might be interesting to bring together too. I also wanted to just say something about the data integrity slides that we saw before. I think data integrity is a huge issue. I think it's completely underestimated because we get all of this FAIR stuff, but FAIR doesn't tell you if your data has any value at all. It only tells you that you can move it around and that people can find it and things like that, but it doesn't tell you anything about the quality of the data. So quality of the data is something really important. And I don't see why you couldn't integrate that into this, maybe with policy as well, ethics and integrity into your working group. But those are my thoughts on that there. And then tomorrow morning we'll have this, we have a working group with CODATA and RDA on data systems, tools, and services for crisis situations. Now, we also have a working group with UNESCO and CODATA, which we just finished developing 3 guidances for the UNESCO Open Science Toolkit, which is what follows on from the Declaration recommendation on open science from 2022. So they have a toolkit, and we put together 3 items for that, a fact sheet, a guidance document, and a checklist. And those are for data policies for times of crises. So data policies for times of crisis, facilitated by Open Science. I'll put something eventually in the chat on this too. This could be interesting for you, I'm not sure, but agriculture is something that is struck heavily by crises. And the need to share data and to move data and so forth is really important then. And then another thing I'll put in the chat as well, we had 2 meetings on that this week already here with the RDA, but from the AIDV working group, Artificial Intelligence Data Visitation, we just received a Tiger grant for a project on data visitation for RDA. And so I'll put the link in here and you'll be able to see it, but we have the possibility now for people to test their data sets and test the ability to share their data sets through data visitation. Essentially, data visitation is, probably you know, but Deborah has a data set. Alan would like to see it. He sends an email to Deborah, can I see your data set? Of course, Deborah answers like everybody else does, no, I can't send it to you because there's sensitive information in it. That's not the real reason she's not sending it to you, Alan. That's the reason she's giving it to you, okay? She's not sending it to you because she wants to publish another 2 or 3 papers based on that data set. And she will always want to publish another 2 or 3 papers, even when she's 80 years old and she hasn't published a paper yet, but she's going to hold on to that data set. So there's a huge problem with sharing data. Part of it is sensitive data, of course, but part of it is just as human beings, we don't like to give away things. We don't like to open up our bank accounts and give away our valuables to other people. So that makes it very difficult, I think. With data visitation, though, Alan, you will send the email and said, Deborah, I would like to query your data set. So she doesn't have to send it to you, but you can send a query to her, an algorithm, and she can allow that algorithm then to interrogate her data set, and you can find out things about it. You can probably find out only things about the data itself, but also how, if she allowed you to, the structure of the data, the quality of the data, things with regard to data integrity and things like that too. So it's really interesting. People don't share data generally. There's a lot of reasons they don't share data, but if we don't have to move the data, which is what GDPR is all about, and only about almost, if we don't have to move the data, but people can maintain their sovereignty over the data and allow people to query their data, then that's something that could be interesting. And it would be interesting for us, and it could be interesting for you, to test this platform, because part of the test is also to test the quality of data. So if you had data sets and you wanted to test the quality of them, you could use this opportunity to do it that way. That's the end of the advertisements.
Thank you, Francis. This data visitation concept is always also very much explored within the FAIR world. So Barend and others are talking a lot about that. I don't know if you are connected with the FAIR, Go FAIR initiative. It seems you have a lot in common.
Yeah, I know they have the LIFES, or what they call LIFES initiative.
Yeah.
Right, and I was up there for one of their meetings in Leiden, and actually, yeah, Barend and I have discussed this. I think this is one reason why he got into it, because I've been into this for a while. So, but yeah, they have a very good platform there for doing data visitation too. Ours is much smaller, and I think it's much easier to step into than, because theirs is with big companies and there's a lot of money involved and things like that. So it's a very complicated structure. It's a lot with the pharmaceutical industry, is what they're doing.
Okay, thank you very much. So Cindy has, are you seeing my slide? She had put the artificial intelligence and data visitation working group abstract in the slide. So Francis just covered that. We're having Pietro talk about the webinar series in the end. We discussed here in the private chat, and I would like to welcome Ricardo to talk about the smart farms and AI, and then we have a discussion about all the presentations after that. Is that okay?
All right. I'm okay to start?
Yes, please, Ricardo.
Oh, okay, perfect. Hello, everyone. My name is Ricardo Millán. I'm going to talk a little bit about some aspects regarding smart farming, AI, cybersecurity, and animal health. So let's get started with the next slide. So just to give, 1 second, I just want to put my timer on just to be sure that I'm on time. But the FAO predicts that by 2050, agricultural production will need to feed, give or take, around 10 billion people. Now, this is not going to be any small feat, since 50% of the world's landmass is currently dedicated to agriculture. So this would mean that we need to that the increase in food production needs to come 10% only from landmass expansion, and 90% needs to come from food production increase. This ergo higher yields. Now, smart farming, which is also known as precision farming, is currently transforming agriculture using Internet of All Things devices, automated vehicles, and data analytics. And within this precision agriculture, AI is playing a crucial role. It is going to help increase productivity. It is going to help with efficiency, lowering costs, optimizing the uses of resources, and increasing operability. So with this in mind, I want to focus on just two aspects regarding the use of AI in this smart/precision farming, which is cybersecurity in farmers, and the second it would be productivity and animal health. So let's start with the first topic. Next slide. So as we mentioned, seeing that we need to increase our food production to feed a growing population, the FAO mentions that the majority of the crop yield increases that we need to see need to happen in developing nations. And in developing nations, what happens is that the large majority of farmers are actually smallholder farmers. These are farmers that have around 1 hectare to 5 hectares in land. And just a quick statistic, in Asia and sub-Saharan Africa, 80% of the farmland is composed of smallholder farms. Now, this population specifically tends to have higher levels of poverty. And with this also have low levels of digital literacy. So when we're talking about smart farming in agriculture, these IoT devices that we're using are normally designed with minimal security features, and they're also placed remotely. These leaves them exposed to threats and manipulation, both when they're connected to a network and in the physical world, because they could be easily accessible to attackers. Now, we need to understand that AI services are currently being designed and marketed to farmers. In fact, there's multiple initiatives to be able to bring AI to farmers in developing countries, so they can get guidance as to what crops to plant and any decisions with regarding farm management. But it's important to remember that AI systems are still vulnerable to attacks. Now, the attacks that happen in AI are classified differently depending on the stages of AI development. But some of the attacks can happen post-production and could target farmers. We're talking about poisoning attacks. We're talking about adversarial example attacks, which we would need to go into more time in order to understand the nuances between these two. But all of this to say that the more we rely on AI for smart farming, AI systems attacks could harm farmers, especially if they have low digital literacy and unaware how to keep their systems safe. Attackers can intercept and modify incoming or outgoing data to alter AI decision making. This could lead to financial losses or even environmental harm. So I would like to imagine if a hacker gains system into a local farmer's network, they could literally alter the satellite images that they're pulling from a specific and trusted source in order for the AI who makes decisions on those images to give them misleading information. And this could be done in order for financial losses and for another stakeholder to come in and buy the land at a lower price. Or it could actually affect unmanned vehicles. If people have access and alter the decision-making in unmanned vehicles, it could affect irrigation systems or appliances of fertilizers and chemicals. And this could lead to harmful environmental effects. Now, with some smart farming becoming a possible tool to ensure necessary food production, we need to start thinking as to, is there a way to protect farmers from being affected from these AI system attacks, other trainings? So with regards to that is like, what can the RDA do? Thoughts that have come through my head is there specific training or partnerships that we could do regarding digital literacy in these smallholder farms that are going to be essential in order to increase crop yields in the developing nations. The next topic is around productivity and animal health. As we were saying, AI decision-making with regards to farm management is just going to be increasing through time. And with large amounts of data, smart farming has the potential to increase animal health if correctly implemented. AI can lead not only to better tailored treatment at the individual level with images and knowing if an animal, for example, is lame and bringing treatment sooner before conditions get worse, but they're also useful in order to have better population monitoring, like detecting sneezing in poultry. But it also presents risks. Automated systems can lead to unforeseeable, unsafe actions or accidental failures. Not only that, smart farming can also have an impact in animal health and welfare if it prioritizes systems focused on efficiency and productivity over animal health. Surveys have showed that the main priority in farmers is productivity. And this is further complicated by the fact that different stakeholders can't even get on the same page when defining welfare. So this might become relevant at any point if we need AI to measure animal welfare. How can we do this correctly if we can't even agree on a definition? So there's certain barriers when using AI when it comes to productivity and animal health. The first thing is cost. it's important to show that improving animal health results in non-sustainable financial losses. A hard truth to swallow is that most consumers are unwilling to pay for higher costs for better welfare. That's just a fact. But so any improvements that we do with regards to smart farming has to be able to show a return of investments and show other benefits aside from welfare, like improvements in environmental practices or improvements in food safety. Another factor, which is something that Francis Crawley mentioned, is data. It is essential to provide evidence that shows smart farming can improve animal welfare, and this relies on having good and large amounts of quality data. If AI could access databases with data from thousands of farms, it could help identify mechanisms that provide better welfare and productivity outcomes. But to achieve this, one would need to tackle data confidentiality and data quality obstacles. The last barrier that I wanted to highlight here is that researchers also have to document the lack of consideration that AI has for non-human species. Some papers have come out with regards to the lack of animal ethics that are included in AI, because AI ethics are mainly focused on the interactions of technology and humans. So this brings the questions forth as to, are there ways to increase data availability for small farms? How can we partner with large stakeholders that have these giant data sets in order to bring them together for a larger data set that could benefit them in return, and also small farmers and the tools that we develop for them? The other is there a way to include animal ethics into AI search for farm productivity? As in, we don't want to eventually come to a situation where we find ways to increase productivity at the cost of animal health and animal welfare. So that's technically the two subjects that I wanted to talk about, and the giant questions that I wanted to propose, or that we could at least try to think about.
Thank you very much, Ricardo. Indeed, very complex questions that you brought to us. And some of them I had myself not thought about before. And this talks a lot with the work that Francis is leading on the CODATA policy committee, isn't it, Francis? Would you like to comment?
Well, I just want to say that I found Ricardo's presentation really interesting. And I think it's important. And I also think that, as Ricardo, I think, is trying to tell us, or telling us, that AI brings in a new dimension to the ethical challenges that we have with data. And in this case, in particular, with agricultural data and animal husbandry. So these are really good questions. These are really good things to think about.
Yeah. So now it's the time of the session that we reserved for the discussion in general. So we saw the ethics group presentation, discussed a little bit about the integrity, data integrity, although unfortunately we didn't have the presentation itself, but brought the subject into light. Had the talk from Francis about the data visitation and the AI, and also touched the ethics, and now the presentation from Ricardo. So I'd like to invite you all who are here to present your thoughts about all that we talked so far. Please raise your hands, or just put your in the chat. We are not many here today, so there's room for everybody to express what someone has. Yes, Peter. You were muted.
Yeah, so maybe I can start if there's nobody else. So Ricardo proposed several, my perspective is the kind of use cases or cases in general that you want to tackle. Yeah, I was wondering if you have any kind of agenda or idea how to follow up on that. Is it the cases set that you propose the IGAD should take up, or maybe the other group that we have here, so that can be reflected in these recommendations. IGAD in the past was providing kind of recommendations for the agriculture. It was focused on several areas, and clearly not about the AI related, at least not that far in the AI related agenda. So I wonder if you thought on the follow-up, or maybe it's part of your activity anyway.
Piotr, thank you for the question. So I have been trying to think a little bit as to the follow-up, like what could be done specifically with farmers and cybersecurity, though I'm new to RDA and still trying to see what are the different groups and initiatives. I don't know if there is a group that is currently tackling maybe data, digital literacy or data safety literacy, and see if there's a possibility to either identify resources or mechanisms that can help farmers understand how, like, at least basic steps or basic digital safety to keep their networks safe as possible, or if that's something that RDA could try to help develop, as to saying what are the things that farmers, well, at least the basics that they would need to know to keep their network safe. So again, still new to RDA, so don't know if that's out of the purview. But that's one thought, at least with regards to farmers and cybersecurity. When it comes to productivity and animal health, I think two follow-up items come to mind. One might fall into what Francis, into maybe the wheelhouse that Francis mentioned, or the group he is currently working with when it comes to the quality of the data. And if RDA could either have a group or think about as to creating or setting standards in order to bring data from different stakeholders that have large amounts already of agricultural data, for example, poultry producers or milk producers, and we could bring all this data together. That could be a large data set for AI to take advantage of in order to show what mechanisms are good for animal health and animal productivity. Again, I don't know if that exists, but I think that would be extremely useful, because I know of multiple researchers who would like to do studies in AI, but there's no large data set for them to like practice or train. AI is dependent on the quality of the data. And so having an available data set that keeps both producers' data secure, but also makes it available for advancements in agricultural practices, I think would be extremely useful. The other would be into maybe advocating for AI models that at least are going to be used for agricultural purposes to include AI ethics. Now, with regards to how to follow up on that, I don't know if that would be a group and then presenting recommendations to relevant stakeholders, but at least those are three thoughts that have come to mind, at least to me.
Thanks, Ricardo. So Francis, you put in the chat about the working group, and you are suggesting that this use cases presented by Ricardo could be a pilot, or did I misunderstood?
Yeah, so actually to be straightforward, most of this data that we're testing, so this is a Tiger project, which is given to the AIDV working group, and we're working with a company in Florida called something Omics. And they have a program called Fairlease there. So that program does quality control of metadata, basically. And then that helps to facilitate the data sharing. What we wanted to do with this program, with this project, was to invite people to just to practice with a data set, their data sharing, without having to move their data, without having any risks with their data. There's a high emphasis within this project as well on data security. So using a platform that's secure and trustworthy is really important. And what Ricardo says about data integrity, data quality, these seem to be topics that are not talked about that much within, let's say, the RDA setting or within the CODATA setting or other settings like this. People talk about the data they have, all the data that they have, the terabytes or petabytes or whatever data they have, but there's no sense that that data actually corresponds to reality, or if it's just another hallucination from like what we get from ChatGPT. So there's a lot of questions that fair, care, trust, all these principles don't even go near, but which is absolutely essential for science and for making true statements upon which science is built. So the quality of the data is really important, and it's going to become more important, I think, as Ricardo suggested, because AI is dependent upon the data that it's being fed, at least the AI we know today. So if we're not giving the AI tools that we use, these analytic tools that we use, good data or reliable data, trustworthy data, then we're not going to be able to make trustworthy conclusions from the AI, trustworthy decisions from the AI. So I think we have to get into a mode where, and that's what I think this DV for RDA, this data visitation for RDA project here, is interesting because it takes us out of this talk of FAIR and so forth and puts us more into the real relationship between data and what data is supposed to describe. And that's what science is, that's where science is critically important. So it's not just managing data, but it's making sure the data that we have is trustworthy data. And that goes to ethics too, because all the ethical questions that ethics questions that you're asking in your survey are basically, in a certain sense, an assumption that the data has value. But that's a huge assumption. And if you're just saying, oh, I have a data set, well, how can you demonstrate that that data set actually describes something real in the world, or is just not something that I fantasized or I filled in the blank on?
Yeah, but Francis, maybe that's going too far, this kind of questions, but do you think that it can be solved on the generic level, or it's kind of domain specific also?
Piotr wants to say, I don't care what domain you solve it in. Right?
Okay.
If you solve it in agriculture, it'll be like an amazing thing, and then everybody will look at what you're doing.
I'm not even saying agriculture is maybe accurate if you want to assess the quality of the data. So Ricardo gave this example of remote sensing when you simply need to you need the verification mechanism, which is reliable on some trusted data, and then you can try to analyze it. It's never accurate, but it's just one of the cases of the agriculture, and then you can have many of them, and naturally, well, yeah. Maybe I'm also coming from the other side where the trust is related to some kind of provenance of the data. So at least that this is set, where is it coming from, who produced it, which method was used to produce it, and then the replication of this. So at least that there is a way to replicate the process of producing data, but naturally doesn't work for the data which is gathered in field, and that is probably the other scenario how you can validate this.
Yeah, I think these questions of provenance, which is going to take us a question of ownership, responsibility, data holder versus data subject, all these kinds of legalistic terms that Europe likes to play with. You know, the GDPR never said a thing about data sovereignty, never said a word about data ownership, right? Now it's really about data sovereignty, because also privacy comes under sovereignty. And your questions, all your questions in your survey are questions about, in a certain sense, data sovereignty. And the problem with sharing data is a problem of sovereignty as well. So anyway, I just got to get off on this thing on sovereignty. I think it's really important. And I think this is the ethical question too. When you ask, because it's a complicated question. It's not just ownership. It's not just provenance. It's responsibility. Data is also a very strange thing, the way we deal with it, because Peter, if I'm a doctor and I take your personal data, then you're going to claim that that data belongs to you, like the GDPR claims it, right? But if I take a picture of you, nobody questions that that picture belongs to me. It doesn't belong to you. And that's all the doctor did, was to take a picture of you and put it into a file with, your height, your weight, your blood results and so forth. It's a similar thing. And I think the question of ethics is a question around this question of, responsible generation and use and storage and things like that of data, but it's about being responsible, which is going to come back to sovereignty too. Sorry, those are my complicated thoughts. And also, just one more thing I say with the data visitation is, I think data visitation is critically important to solve some of these issues, because if we want to know if an article is well written, we do peer review, right? And if that article actually matches with the world, I think the only way we're going to train data sets to get to higher quality, metadata, and maybe then even higher quality data, is by a kind of peer review system between data sets.
Yep.
And not the only way, I'm sorry, that's not it, but one of the ways we could use. Yeah.
All right. So I understand that from your perspective, the way how we can interact with this initiative is through this submission format, or you think that there's more to be done, and a better way to maybe join forces here in this area, as probably part of the IGAT. From my perspective, it's part of my interest in OGC naturally. So is it the right way to follow up this initiative? through this submission?
Well, I'm just a salesman, huh? So for me, of course, it's interesting if you do it because it helps our project. You have to decide yourself if it's interesting for you or if it's interesting for your working group, your interest group here. But I do think that data visitation will take over will be how we do data sharing. It'll still be limited, but we'll never get strong federation. We'll never get sufficient federation, let's say. Again, because of this idea of sovereignty, ownership, and how, do I really trust Deborah or does she really trust me? These kinds of things. So we need to keep a very human perspective on this, a very human perspective that we just are the kind of, I can say this in the agricultural group, we just are the kind of animals that we are, right? So we're gonna be very cautious about what we do, and we're gonna want a secure environment in which to do it. And we're going to, and by the way, if you look at the European Health Data Space, that's one of 16 data spaces. It's all about economy. So it's about an economy of data. And so the ethics is going to be built around an economy of data, at least, well, not just at least, but in Europe, that's what you won't have euros, you'll have data.
Okay, thank you, Francis and Pietro, for the discussion. We still would like to ask your contribution for the webinar series, but I would like to know if any of you, Alan, perhaps would like to respond to something that was mentioned here about ethics and sovereignty. Or last chance to wrap up the discussion. Good.
I would say maybe not the last chance, because actually what we wanted to talk about is also this what you mentioned, the webinar series. In the IGAT internally, we see that there is a number of topics, and actually, well, several of them were brought today in the agenda, but naturally, because of the various reasons, it's not always easy to connect through this at the same time, and also we feel that this kind of discussions need some kind of follow-up, and one of the idea was that since we have this IGAT community, we have the liaisons groups, we can do what we do in the other communities simply, which means that we can. The idea is to set up this kind of in the meantime webinars, which could be maybe, well, we can decide if that's preferably open, or we should have it closed to IGAT, or we want to do it. Do we want to publish that? In the past, in the anniversary, there was a webinar series organized by IGAT, and actually, one of the outcomes was the ethical group, probably, because that discussion has a long history, and I guess 2023 or something like that was the ethics was one of the topics of the webinars that we organized under the IGAT, and now it's available online also, and the YouTube channel of the RDA, so everybody can come back to that, but we've seen that there's a couple of topics we want to, yeah, exactly. So you can find it on the on YouTube already, and I think that like Ricardo said, there are the ideas, and I believe that we have the community which could try to evaluate this kind of scenarios, or maybe enlighten us and how the other people are doing this kind of things, and what are the gaps, what should we do around that. So the format of the webinars, as we thought about that, is that it could be if open, that will be half open, half not, meaning that at least the recording will not be covering all of the discussion, because then we might want to talk about the activities that we want to do. And in the past, the webinar series covered, as mentioned, the ethics. The other topics were quite technical. One, which is data and agriculture and agri-semantics, crosswalks and ontologies. This is always a good thing to revisit from time to time. We're talking about the advanced analytics, and here we had a couple of cases which also provided us some follow-ups. We've seen the local activities that Marina organized around the Georgia and that Caucasus area, and we were also talking about the supply chains and the trust of the data about the agriculture. And here is maybe the ask, if you feel that there are any topics that you would like to cover in the webinar series at the moment. We can do it like there's not so many of us, so we can do it like openly talking about that, or we can just collect the ideas in the survey. We can do that online. So is there anybody who would like to raise topics to follow up in the webinar series for FIGAT?
Why would Ricardo not do something on AI? I mean, everybody else is doing AI.
Yeah. Everybody's doing AI in different ways. Yeah. Maybe.
Yeah, I would be happy to try to tackle one of the issues and proposed issues. Again, I'm a bit new to RDA, so I don't know, like I need a sponsor or like all that. So if I could get a little bit of guidance, but I think I would love to tackle at least either the data question regarding how can make agricultural data, or like a warehouse with like good quality data available for AI. I think that could be an interesting topic to tackle, or something like that.
Okay, so the data quality is the one thing. The AI in general, you've said about the productivity. The productivity is, at least my perspective, is one is the agriculture, the other is farming and animals. These are sometimes different areas. At least the data is different a little bit, maybe. Okay. Quality AI.
Yeah, I don't know if this would have to also need like a separate group, but I think the other aspect, which is like, how do we tackle cybersecurity in farmers, especially farmers with low level digital literacy. I don't know if that's out of the RDA's purview, but I think that's going to be a big factor. Cybersecurity and AI, I think, is a factor that is pretty much overseen.
Well, Ricardo, how about security for data sharing? I don't mean just data visitation, but security for data sharing.
In an aspect of AI.
Is that the same as cybersecurity for you, or?
So, because I think cybersecurity differences, because like security and data sharing is how do you share data in a way that is secure. Cybersecurity, I think, is more of a how do you set up your systems so you can decrease the risk of being a victim to a cyber attack in the focus of AI.
And then another topic I would throw out is data sovereignty, or sovereignty, digital sovereignty, something like that. Because, well, that's just what I like, but you know, you talk in your survey, you talk about indigenous people, you talk about farmers in relationship to industry, in relationship to culture. to government and relationship to consumers. So, who has rightful access to this kind of data, who has rightful ownership or such over the data. And I think these are strong ethical questions too. And privacy could be part of that or could be something separate. So
Yeah, thank you. Okay, what I have had in mind. Yeah, okay. That these are like kind of technically related. Any other thoughts? Because we are talking about some kind of technical questions. Do you think that there are any openly speaking, if there are any areas that we should also talk about, not data ownership policies, but maybe subdomain of the agriculture, which is we talk about the precision agriculture to some extent, the livestock optimization. Naturally, the climate thing is the huge topic in the agriculture, but maybe it's covered. Just putting the ideas and maybe something is catching up. The supply chains, agriculture supply chains. This is the the technical questions are going across probably usually, and the ownership, privacy, ethics, machine learning, data governance. Yeah, that's what I had also in my list. That's cool. Yeah, if you will follow up the group, or shall we do this together between the RDA groups? Do you think that makes sense, or it should be organized under IGAT ourselves, or you want to join here forces and try to organize something together?
You mean the groups that organized the session today?
Yeah, I mean, the idea was initially to have the IGAT thing, because that's something we can do. But if you want to have like a role in that in the planning also, then yeah, we can think about that. If not, we'll organize the agenda and naturally invite you to have a role in that. I mean, to chair the session or to speak, or to just listen what's happening. Yeah, no more materials. There will be many materials in our notes. Thank you.
one more thing is, it could be really interesting to do something on agricultural data and the United Nations Pact for the Future, because you mentioned the SDGs in the beginning of this too, and that's a document from September last year, and it's really about it's about the digital environment and the SDGs. And I think probably, I didn't look at it for agriculture, sorry, but there's probably something in there on agriculture, but it doesn't matter. All the SDGs are in there, and AI is in there, and data and all this kind of stuff. So it's a really interesting document. And it could be interesting to do something on that too. And
yeah, I'll look it over. Thank you for the link, and I'll add it to our agenda of our next working group meeting to discuss it. Thanks.
Okay, it's wonderful.
Alan, did your group mention the idea of having a webinar presenting the survey and why it's done? That's what you've done today in a way, but maybe in an open webinar outside the plenary, that would be a way to disseminate it.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. I'm not familiar with like what the structure of one of those would be. So if there are examples of webinars that go along with surveys, feel free to send those my way. But I'll bring that up with the working group as well. Yeah, this is really the official rollout is really today of the survey.
Yeah, that's exciting.
Kind of a soft rollout, I guess. So maybe we don't know how long we'll have it going on. We'll kind of like monitor responses to it and probably kind of extend it as needed. But we're hoping to have it done within a month or two.
Yeah, I would suggest you post a note in the IGAD community as well, for the mailing list receives it.
Yeah, we're fortunate to have Ryan has been really helpful. Our RDA liaison has been really helpful, and he's put together a list of people to reach out to. And then, as I mentioned, we have that landscape analysis where they also have a long list of people to reach out to. So Ryan hasn't sent out those messages quite yet. We're hoping to do that after today. So we'll hopefully get fairly good coverage within the RDA community, but we'll be relying on you all to help be like hubs in the network of distribution and sharing it with all the people that you know as well.
Yep.
Great.
Everyone is tasked, Jen.
Okay, so I'd like to thank all the presenters, Ricardo, Alan, Francis, and also Pietro, and give them some applause. Thank you very much for preparing and being here with us.
Thank you, Deborah, for hosting.